Well, hello, welcome. My name is Eric Jambor. I'm one of the features programmers here for SF Indie Fest. Glad to have you joining us, and I'm thrilled to be talking with Lillian Merrill about Honeyjoon, one of our features that I was very excited about myself. It's a kind of film that I love to run into at a film festival when I know I can know nothing about it, and still the film pulls me in, and I get engaged and connected to it from pretty much the beginning. So, Lillian, thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. Um, I guess first off, I'm always interested in who filmmakers are and where they come from and what they do. Could you tell us where you grew up, how you got into film, and maybe what you do for a living when you're not making movies?
Sure. So I'm Lillian T. Morel. I'm a writer and director and also a producer of Honeyjoon. And I started making stuff when I was a kid. When I realized that there was such a thing as a director, I borrowed my mom's camera and just, grabbed my brother and friends. And it was coming from this like natural curiosity and this impulse to explore. And at the end of the day, even back then, for me, it was about the audience. I couldn't wait to share it with people. And that's the same for me now. I think I make films because I love people. And I love to take you on a ride, on a roller coaster ride of laughter and emotion, and share in the inside joke of being human. So it means a lot to me that you felt connected and engaged. And yeah, I am fully a writer and director. I actually won $1 million to make Honeyjoon. It's an indie film fairy tale. I won the biggest film production prize in the world, the Tribeca AT&T Untold Stories Award. And so I pitched Honeyjoon. I won the $1 million. I made the film and I premiered it this summer at Tribeca, and it's been a beautiful ride ever since.
That is amazing. That's quite an award to win. I think
Yeah.
is it true that's the biggest of that sort of production prize in the world?
That's right. That's right. $1 million. Yep.
All right, so I know you must have done short films before.
That's right.
So what did you have to go in to pitch? Did you bring a portfolio of work, and did you have this as a completed script at the time?
That's right. Yeah, I submitted the script. The script like poured out of me in sort of just this like rush of inspiration, and I also took it to the Torino Film Lab and the Sine Qua Non Storylines Lab, which were wonderful. And yeah, I had made a lot of short films when I was at NYU Tisch grad film, and the more you make, the more your voice just becomes clearer and clearer, and your audience reflects back to you like who you are because they come up to you and they say like, "Oh, I laughed, I cried," and you start to realize like, "Oh, I'm laugh cry. That's who I am." And then, it just becomes you become more free actually in being yourself. And I realized when I wrote Honeyjoon, I realized by me being super, super embarrassingly honest, that's when it connected with the most people. That's when they felt the most. That's when they laughed the most. And yeah, that's what I'm here to do.
Very nice. Yeah, sometimes it's those specific details that are most universal, oddly in a
Totally.
way. Yeah.
And that's actually the thing about Honeyjoon, because on the surface, there are a lot of things you can connect to. It's a mother-daughter trip. It's about a trip to Portugal. They're Persian. And it's like if you have any of those things and they live with loss. And so there are people who can connect on all those levels. But underneath it all, it's really about, like I said, that inside joke of being human and all the beauty and pain and hilarity and, the things that we can all connect to. And so it really means a lot to me when people come in, they don't know what to expect, and then they just go for that ride.
Yeah, amazing. What was it like shifting from your style of doing short films to this new situation where you've probably have the ratio of your budget was probably much larger than you had worked with before. Was that more pressure? Did you find it more freeing? Did you enjoy having more time to focus on one long story?
Yeah, the thing about the feature that I found most exciting was all the ways that you can add layers, that you have time to unfold and time to like one thing I love about cinema is all the space it leaves for you to bring your own questions and impressions and memories into it. And I feel like with the feature, it gave even more space for that. And like people will come up to me afterwards and talk to me about like all the symbolism that they saw in it. And there's a lot of like yin yang metaphors in the film, kind of the whole film, like the characters are, the themes are, it's about surfing the light and dark waves of life. And actually, one thing I realized that is really special from watching the feature with audiences over and over now in the film festivals is that I realized that when you watch the film and you ride the waves of laughter or crying and emotion, the themes of the film of surfing the light and dark waves of life are not theoretical anymore. They're embodied and you feel them in your body. And that's something that I feel that you can't really do in the short form the way that I was able to do it with a feature.
Yeah, that's yeah, I think it's true. I mean, even just the pacing, you're able
Mhm.
to take your time, and I think it's the time that I think it helps to make this work so well, where you're able to hold on a shot maybe longer. You're not trying to hurry through anything, even though your runtime is
Yeah. Brisk.
relatively short, especially these days. Um, so that all plays really well.
Thank you.
It's beautifully shot. The editing, I think, has really nice lyrical pacing to it. But the actors really pull everything together. Can you tell us about that process? Because from the leads to the supporting characters, they're all really interesting and unique. Where did you get them from?
Well, first of all, thanks for shouting out my team. I had just such amazing creative collaborators who really understood, like from my cinematographer to my editor to even my composers, everyone was on the same page about the blend of humor and emotion. And that's also where my actors come in because when I won the award and I was ready to find my cast, I was like, how am I going to find people who can really hold both? And be so specific to this role and have some of the specific like cultural backgrounds of the characters and how's it going to happen? And so I was actually watching a movie to be a reference for my cinematography, and that movie was Call Me by Your Name. And Timothy Chalamet's mom in Call Me by Your Name ended up being the mom in Honeyjoon. It's Amira Kazar. And it was just like these serendipitous things would happen that it turned out that she was perfect for the role. And then for the daughter who plays June, I was like, again, it needs to be someone who can be like fluent in comedy and emotion. And there's this comedic genius, incredible rising star whose name is Aiden Mayeri. And she actually found me because my casting director sent out the script to agents and, they would send it to their actors and she read it. And it resonated so much with her that she wrote to me actually on Instagram. She slid in my DMs, really cool, and was just telling me about how she felt that the script was like this like sparkling act of rebellion to like reclaim pleasure and it felt so honest about grief and life and made her laugh and then it was so amazing because she didn't even realize that she used like a code word for me because she said the word sparkling and one of my visual references from the very beginning was sunlight sparkling on the ocean because it's like those little glimmers of light in the dark. And like I said, the film is full of like symbolism of light and dark. But the fact that she even described it that way, I was like meant to be, and we met, and it was, the rest is history. And then for Joao, the hot surfer tour guide, who had to be also like a deep thinker and philosophical, there was only one. He's a huge star in Portugal. And he's actually the star of the #1 Netflix series that's shot on that same island. And so he knows the island like in his bones, and I wrote him a letter. He was in an Almodovar film that was at Cannes, and I was like, okay, he's electric, he has this energy, and I need to talk to him. So I wrote him just a letter about how much I loved his work. And we had a Zoom. He was in Portugal, and I was in New York. And on the Zoom, we started talking about goodbyes and about a character whose job it is, every day is a new goodbye. And as a tour guide and then we started talking about like what must have happened in his family, what was his mother like, and all of that. And we talked about the long goodbye and it went so deep. And the beauty of all of these actors is that they were able to play the authentic emotion of the character. They weren't trying to be funny, but they just are funny by being so true and so themselves, you know? Sometimes there are moments like audience members will tell me, like, I wasn't sure whether to laugh or cry, and I kind of did both because it's also sad, but it's also absurd or human or funny. So, yeah, they were really incredible. And that was one of my favorite things about making this film is working with that unbelievable cast.
That's terrific. And the supporting cast
Oh yeah,
were
they're
they
amazing.
locals or did you bring everybody in?
Yeah, so every single person who plays a couple in the film, like a honeymoon couple, is a real couple who lives on that island. They're all actual couples. I like even went around stopping couples in the street to cast them. There's a procession put on by a town that's a real town that put on that whole procession for us. And yeah, I had really amazing supporting cast from Portugal, you know, who played some of the hotel concierges and the grandma and yeah, it was a really incredible, and the whole crew was from Portugal, except for my cinematographer, who's from Argentina, but we went to NYU grad film together, and I brought her over. And besides the fights about soccer, it was just wonderful.
Nice. Well, the island certainly is another one of your characters, and I looked it up. If I remember right, it's not just off the coast.
Yeah,
It's pretty far out there.
yeah, it's in the
Was
middle of
it?
the Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah, yeah. Was it difficult shooting on an island? Did you like did everything have to come over, or was there any equipment on the island?
It literally everything had to come over on a boat, except we shot some driving scenes, and for the Netflix show, they had built, you know, like a low loader for cars to be on, like kind of like a homemade one. And so we got the leftover homemade low loader from the Netflix show that was still on the island. But besides that, we brought over everything else. And yes, it was quite a challenge. I mean, I think any filmmaker will know shooting your debut feature with, you know, a relatively low budget, especially on an island where you're bringing everyone and everything over, that money just flies away. But basically, it's always going to be a challenge, but it's especially a challenge when you've decided to make a mostly exterior shoot in an island where they say it's 4 seasons in a day and they mean it. Like it'll rain, you know, whenever it feels like it. So the island was a character and also, you know, part of the whole thing. I had to go with the flow and it made me a better director. It sharpened me. I had to really know what I need because if we only have 5 minutes before it's going to rain, you know, and also it sometimes, like, for example, a certain foggy scene that I won't spoil in case anyone hasn't seen it, but as we were driving up the mountain to a viewpoint, the view around me disappeared into the fog, and I wrote a new scene on the drive up, and it was better. It was better for it. So thanks to the island.
Wow, yeah, that's amazing that you have to just go with it because you think
Yeah.
about so many other first features. There's that whole other style of, well, I'm going to write it to take place in as few locations as possible, and then maybe it's just a warehouse, and that's it because you can control everything. And to be in a different environment, I think it's good you didn't try to have animals and kids because I think that's the next difficult thing.
Just some
Um,
dolphins.
yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, but it all comes together so nicely. I did want to ask, what were the candies on the desk
Oh,
that
you
the
know,
receptionist kept eating?
someone asked me about that at a Q&A the other night, and they were like, was that symbolic? Because one of the things I shared is that so this film is inspired by real grief, you know, real life, real love, and a real trip to this island. And I think I made it to sort of explore the question, like, despite everything, can life still be sweet? And looking for the sweetness of being alive, you know, with all that it holds. And candy is part of it. And yeah, those were caramels, sea salt caramels for like a little balance. And I just thought, you know, there are little winks and moments and whatever pleasures that June can find, even eye candy, for example. But ultimately I think that like kind of like the yin yang, one character is sort of, you know, running towards the light and looking for the sweetness and the pleasures, and the other character is trying to connect through the pain and the dark. but there's a little of each other in each side, and they do cross places, and ultimately feeling alive means feeling all of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you did such a stellar job just all around. I'm really excited for you and your career. And I think this is sort of where I start pulling in questions from the audience, which I can't do in this situation. But maybe you can tell us a bit about what is happening next with the film and what's happening next with you.
For sure. Well, also, if anybody does have questions, you can always message your questions to Honeyjoon Film on Instagram, and the questions come to me, and I'll always answer them. Um, and yeah, I also for what's next, if you follow Honeyjoon Film, you'll find out. I post whenever. Right now, we're still doing festivals, and I post whenever it's coming to like a city near you. But then, what I also have learned, it's just solidified it for me. The more I share it, is that this film is meant to be experienced in an audience. It really, that's the best. So even if you've seen it online, if it comes to your city in theaters, go see it again and bring friends because it's a shared human experience. You laugh together, you feel together, you ride the waves of life, as Joao would say. And there's nothing like it, the energy in the room. And so that's what I'm really going for now is our next chapter would be theatrical. And then of course release it online so that everyone everywhere can see it. And then as a writer, director, and producer, what I really love to do is, keep being inspired by our humanness to tell stories that make you laugh, make you feel seen, and yeah, take you on that ride.
Wonderful. Is there a script already in development that you're working on?
Oh yes.
So probably multiple scripts. Huh?
There are, yes. But I think what this film has taught me, I mean, it's taught me so much because when you make a film, I think as an artist, you don't even fully understand all the things you're putting in there or exploring. And then as you share it, audiences come up to you and reflect back to you, and you realize there were subconscious things you were wrestling with. And one of the gifts that the audience gave me is it made me feel free because they are laughing at these really dark jokes that I was sort of like experimenting with and trying out. I'm like, are they going to take this ride with me? And they're embracing the kind of the bold, moments and feelings that I was expressing. And I'm like, if you're going to go there with me, I'm just going to get bolder. I'm just going to get bigger. Like you've given me that. So watch out and enjoy.
Absolutely. Well, I look forward to seeing what you do next and look forward to having you up in San Francisco. And thanks again for doing this today.
Thank you so much. It's such a always a gift to talk about the work, share it with people, and most of all, I hope you enjoy. Thanks.
Thanks.
Oh, actually, I'll add one more thing if it's okay. You
Yeah.
can actually help us get the film in theaters. If you're on Letterboxd, 5-star reviews and ratings actually do help indie films. So you're not only making a difference to my film, but to indie cinema in general. And if you loved the film, of course, it would mean a lot to us. And if you didn't love the film, just save it for after we get distribution or tell me personally. I don't mind. But yeah, it would mean a lot. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.